We are training soldiers so that Mozambique government can maintain control in 𝗙𝗏𝗂𝗑𝐵𝗏 to create a clear field for Total Energies to excavate the place and make a fortune for themselves, money that will never reach the people of Mozambique who are already suffering serious environmental impact of climate change, right? So, and here we are spending European taxpayers' money training soldiers in Mozambique to facilitate Total Energies. Colonialism hasn't stopped. It has just changed its name.
Hello everybody, this is Pascal again from Neutrality Studies, and here's the last part of the July interview I did with Clare Daly and Mick Wallace. If you haven't seen the first pod yet, click the above link to watch that one first. I had one more question to the two that I really wanted to ask them, namely, what is going on currently in the EU with all of these Orwellian named initiatives, like the European Peace Facility that is now funneling weapons to Ukraine against EU regulations, or this rapid deployment capacity, which Claire labeled as an EU army. Please have a look at her answer.
As you say, there are so many acronyms and so many programs now, all of which came out of research by the, largely with the defense industry at the helm of that, saying that for Europe to make itself more secure, we needed more militarism. So we have a joint military sort of headquarters now. We have a strategic compass, as they call it, which is supposed to say that we all face the same threats and we all need the same level of investment and so on. They say, oh, no, we're not talking about a European army, but yet they have a rapid response mobilization of 5,000 troops is what they want to go into, be ready to go where they might be needed, where our values could be spread, but they say including into areas basically where people don't want them. Now, what is that other than an EU army? Of course it is. And in some ways, this debate about whether there was going to be an EU army or not has become a little bit academic, because ironically, even though Britain has left the European Union and they were one of the biggest blocks to an EU army because they were so wedded to NATO, not because they were peace lovers, but because they wanted NATO, ironically, they've gone. And now the EU army is being developed through NATO, and NATO integration feeds through all of these programs. So the European Peace Facility replaced the old African Peace Facility, where it was strictly the money was supposed to go to help Africa, development programs and so on. Specifically, you were not allowed to use that fund for military hardware. Now it's been specifically set up, as you say, Orwellian called Peace Facility, so that it can now be used to off-the-books purchase arms. And that has been used as the lifeblood for trumpeting in loads of military hardware into Ukraine, but also across Africa as well. So they're backdoor ways of channeling it off the books, because even though we now have a European Defence Fund, on the book military expenditure, the European Union was never supposed to be allowed to do that. It's probably actually illegal, really.
They have a lot of different ways now of spending money on military. Claire has mentioned a few of them, but a lot of them are very underhanded as well. And just to give you one example, there is, as Claire said, a massive interest in Africa. And the reason there's a big interest in Africa is because there's mineral wealth there, and they want to confront Chinese and Russian influence in Africa. So what has this got to do with peace for the citizens of Europe? Well, it has nothing to do with them, right? It's about spending money trying to protect financial interests of corporations from the US and from Europe, right? You take a place like the Sahel in sub-Saharan Africa, right? The EU has spent over 8 billion euros of European taxpayers' money since 2013. Now, we've called on the European Court of Auditors to actually audit as to what actually happened with the money. What did we spend it on? Because the place has been a shit show from the start. Poverty levels have increased since they went down there in 2013. Instability, there's huge trouble. There's Islamic fighters fighting back against Europeans. We had 20,000 troops down there at one stage, right? The French had 5,000 troops down there. And why were the French so interested in the Sahel? Because the French get 50% of the uranium from Niger. And nuclear provides 75% of French electricity. So they're getting uranium on the cheap from Niger, and they have 5,000 soldiers down there up until about 9 months ago, making ensure that they retain access to this cheap uranium. Now, so this is colonialism under a different name, right? It's financial imperialism on the part of the Europeans, and the Americans and the Canadians are down there too. Now, listen, last November, with the Security and Defence Committee, I went to Mozambique as part of a delegation. We went down to view EU training missions. Now, you would say, Mozambique borders South Africa, and you wonder, what are we doing having training missions in Mozambique? So we have two training missions where we are training young teenagers, Mozambique lads, to fight. Now, why are we doing that? Well, the reason being is that in a place called 𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗪, in the north of Mozambique, there's been a massive gas find. So the government invited in TotalEnergies from France and Eni from Italy to explore the idea of the merits of excavating. Now, despite the fact that the environmental agencies have all told us that we cannot open new gas fields for environmental reasons, anyway, it was explored, and TotalEnergies said, yeah, we're on first, fantastic gas field here, and we're up for it. So the Mozambique government gave them permission to start. So what they did was they hired mercenaries to get rid of 2,000 farmers off the land who were in the way, right? And they happened to be of a Muslim variety, because 𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗪 is one of the few Muslim regions in Mozambique. So the farmers weren't very happy, and they found some arms for themselves and started to fight back. And then there was Islamic fighters from neighboring countries, and they came in. And before you knew it, you had a full-scale war. And what was this? So what are we doing down there? We are training soldiers so that Mozambique government can maintain control in 𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗪 to create a clear field for TotalEnergies to excavate the place and make a fortune for themselves, money that will never reach the people of Mozambique, who are already suffering serious environmental impact of climate change, right? So, and here we are spending European taxpayers' money training soldiers in Mozambique to facilitate TotalEnergies. Colonialism hasn't stopped. It has just changed its name.
The Europeans still do war in Europe, and they still go abroad and exploit other peoples. It seems that we just can't get over ourselves and just can't change.
Yeah, well, it is modern colonialism for sure. But I suppose on a positive note, because we are inherently positive, is that we don't think, and we see already, that those countries now that contain the majority of the world's population, the young people in Africa and South America and so on, these are educated people. The world has become much smaller. They are not going to take it. Absolutely not. And I think for us, the future really lies there. And that's why we in Ireland, as a neutral country, having been formerly colonised ourselves, we feel that we have a lot more in common with them and should be linking up with them to develop a far brighter, I suppose, more internationalist future, really.
Yeah, and listen, while Stoltenberg might think that pumping more arms into Ukraine is the way towards peace, right? The people of Europe are well aware of the fact that there's only two lots of people dying at the moment. There's working class Ukrainians and there's working class Russians dying in large numbers for no good reason in Ukraine. And this war is totally stupid. And the people that are promoting it from either side are not dying in it. They don't fight in the war. The middle class and the well-off and the people who wear the suits don't fight in the wars. It is the working class who die in the war. This is a stupid war, like all wars before it. And most people in the world realize that war is stupid. It promotes the interests of elites, not just the military-industrial complex. It has nothing to offer to citizens of anywhere.
Absolutely, and it is no coincidence that this war is happening in the poorest part of Europe, because it's always the poorest people that are asked to go and die for what the richest
Exactly.
I'm absolutely with you. I think the new non-aligned movement that's going to come up is going to be a completely different kind from what you've seen before. And I think we neutral countries, Ireland, Switzerland, Austria, but even also Serbia and so on, we need to sympathize and solidarize with them and hopefully push against this warmongering. Claire, and thank you very much for taking the time today.
No
a pleasure
problem.
as always. Thanks very much, Pascal. Keep up the good work.
All the best.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
See ya.
Keep in touch.
Bye bye.
Bye.
See ya. Bye bye.